thing that you get wrong, that people get wrong, is not putting their goals, aspirations at a high enough clip that pushes them, and then also changing their mind about what they're going to do every 6 months.
$5 trillion like in today's money, right? Because of what he controls and stuff. So I was asking chat, like, what would you need to do to become the wealthiest person in history now?
The lasting impact that you're going to leave with is, wow, Cory actually did something useful for me. He did what he said what he was going to do. And that's somebody that I'd want in my corner.
Welcome to Built to Scale, the podcast where vision meets action. I'm your host, Quinn Schilz, founder of Master Roofing, and I'm here to pull back the curtain on building world-class teams, scaling companies, and turning bold ideas into unstoppable momentum. Let's get to work. Today, we've got a powerhouse guest, Cory Jacobson. Cory is a Philadelphia-based real estate investor, broker with the Real Brokerage, and co-host of the Wealth Juice podcast, a show dedicated to helping listeners get started in real estate and build long-term wealth. Cory's journey is all about taking real, tangible steps from the ground up. He's built his business, grown his influence, and now teaches others how to get started in real estate investing the right way. In this conversation, we're going deep into his roadmap, from his very first deal to scaling up, building a team, using AI in his business, and the wins and failures along the way. This is one of those episodes where you'll want a notebook in hand because Cory isn't just talking theory. He's sharing actionable, granular steps that any younger entrepreneur can apply, whether you're in real estate or any other business. So let's get into it. Welcome, Cory.
Quinn, I didn't write that intro for you. That was pretty awesome. So that was I appreciate you putting that all together, and it makes me sound a lot cooler than I am. So thanks.
I'm just trying to be like you, bro.
Yeah.
So what are the exact what's the exact moment you realized real estate was going to be your path?
So this is a great question, and I get it all the time. And it really started actually in 2018. I was working for the Philadelphia 76ers. So I'm here based in Philly. I've been here like my whole life. Basketball has been a big passion of mine. And I was making a whopping $35,000. It turns out that they pay the players a lot more than the business side of the business, but they should, because the players are worth it. So I was running our youth camps. I was making like 35 grand. And my boss told me, he's like, you know what? I could probably get you up to 40 or 45, which, I got so excited about, obviously. But he's like, another way that you could actually make more money, or at least save more money, is you should buy a 4 or 5 bedroom house, and you could live in one of the rooms and rent out the other rooms to some of the young dudes working here. And I thought, you know what? This isn't going to keep me here much longer, but I had just enough money to save up for a property. I bought a 3-bed, 2-bath. I lived in one of the bedrooms, and I rented out the other 2 bedrooms to friends who came with me from renting. And for the first time ever, I was able to save money. So I went from paying $1,000 a month in rent to living for free. And that opened up my eyes to the real estate investing world. And I was like, this is different. I had no way of saving money, making the money that I was making. I then pivoted into sales. I was able to stack a little bit more money. I bought a duplex, cash flowed like $300 a month in South Jersey. But the pivotal turning point, Quinn, is when I sold that duplex for $100,000 profit 3 years after I bought it. And I just remember thinking to myself, there was no way I was going to save up $33,000 a year on average at my job. So real estate was the thing that was going to get me to the next level. Then I started partnering with people like my partner, Ryan. We started our podcast, social media platform. We grew homegrown 8 to 10 units in the Philadelphia, New Jersey area. And as I networked organically with people through our podcast and our social media, that's when things started to grow. So over the past 6 or 7 years, we've grown to just over 80 units. We don't own all of those ourselves. We're general partners in most of these deals, but that was how things got started. And I knew that real estate, I had to do something outside of my regular job because no one was coming to save me. And that was the big thing that sparked me starting this journey. So, yeah.
Dude, I just thought about myself when you told that story, because I'm actually right in the process right now of trying to get out of renting and buying my first property, because I just feel like I'm throwing all my money away every year, and I live in a nice apartment, dude, so I'm spending like a lot of money every month, and it's just going down the drain. And I just had Brad Rice on the podcast, from our group that we're in with Rich Summers.
Yep,
and
connected with Brad a bunch.
Nice. So we were talking about mortgages and everything, and he's like, dude, why are you renting? Like you should just get a place. And then so now I'm starting that process, looking with realtors and trying to find maybe like a duplex or a fourplex, even a triplex, where I can have somebody, because I've read books on that since I was a kid, but I never taken the step. I always just followed the crowd and keep renting. And it's when you say that stuff, it's like you're making me realize I'm making the right step.
Quinn, it gets the ball rolling down the hill. For anybody that's starting out in real estate investing, the number one thing you should do, unless you have 3 kids and you're already super established, by the way, you can still do it if you get a duplex or a triplex or a quad. But the best thing that you can do is start to build that equity in a property that's in a decent appreciating market, even if you're not living for free, because that was what house hacking was. It's like, oh, I can live my free, I can eliminate my expenses. But Quinn, what if you went from your nice apartment where, I'm just throwing numbers out there, you were spending $3,000 a month in rent and you were able to spend $1,100 towards your mortgage, but the delta of that $1,900 is going into your pocket. So everyone thinks of it like you have to just, oh, well, I'm too late to this, interest rates, prices are too high. But if you can even reduce your living expense a little bit, have people pay down your mortgage, then the tax benefits, appreciation, principal paid on, that all comes into play. But the key is getting started. Once you get the ball rolling down that hill, it makes it much easier to make other real estate investments. Most people just get stuck on that square one saying they want to do it and they never take any action. And so I commend you, man. I think it's a great move for you.
Yeah, it's just about taking that first baby step, getting the pre-approval, and then start looking, have a realtor look for you, and you know, everyone says it. Like I worked with Manny Koshman for a while. I don't know if you know who that is.
Heard of the name, but I don't know him. Yeah.
So real estate investing is like the number one way people create wealth. The most millionaires come out of real estate, right?
Yep, 90% of millionaires are created with either they have real estate in their portfolio or it's the main thing that they're doing. And there's a distinction between like building active income through real estate, i.e. wholesaling, flipping, something like that, or using it as your investment vehicle, which would be rental properties, which is what I've focused on, like the long-term buy and hold. So I've always created ways to get active income coming in and then use that and deployed it into the passive, if you will. I say passive in air quotes because real estate investing is more passive than your job, but it's not 100% passive unless you're a limited partner, like just passively investing in deals, which we have. But so that's the key there.
Still coming up.
What's the one thing young entrepreneurs are doing wrong that's keeping them broke?
The same thing that I did wrong.
SoCal homeowners, why pay $15,000, $20,000, or even $30,000 for a new roof when instead you can get a new roof for only less than $100 per month? Here at Master Roofing, we serve homeowners with high quality roofs with no hefty upfront costs. So give your house the roof it deserves with zero down and low monthly payments. Why wait? Click the link below to get you a roof you deserve for payments you can afford. So Cory, take us back to day one. What was your first deal actually like?
Yeah, so speaking about my first deal, what I did is I mentioned I bought a 3-bed, 2-bath in the Philadelphia area. It was a $250,000 property, and I thought I was overpaying. I was like, I can't believe I'm going to spend $250,000 on this. I almost lost the deal because I didn't want to spend that extra like $5,000. Meanwhile, that property is worth like $405 today. 6 years later. But what I did is I took 10% down, which actually I didn't even need 10%. I just put 10% down. I could have done 5, could have done 3.5. I bought that 3-bed, 2-bath, $250,000. I lived in one of the bedrooms. I rented out the other bedrooms. My mortgage was like $1,500 a month, but my tenants were paying $750 each. So I literally was living for free. And that deal was allowing me to save up that extra $1,000, $1,500 a month over time. And I was able to buy that next property with that. So I just held on to it. It was actually a property that was flipped. So I didn't put too much work into it, but just by holding on to the property, it appreciated by over $150,000 in the last 7 years because of the area that I bought in. So that was that first deal.
If you could put yourself back in your shoes at the very beginning, what was that? What would you have done different earlier on?
That's a good question. I think the only thing that I maybe would have done different is bought a duplex, a triplex, or a quadplex and put a bunch of sweat equity into it. So actually myself done the fixing up. I don't really have any regrets about what I did because it got my journey started. But if I could have bought like a fixer-upper that was in that same price range, $200,000 to $300,000, and over a year did a live and flip and lived in the property and fix it up over time, and instead of maybe having $150,000 to $200,000 worth of equity I have now, that might be $300,000 to $400,000 worth of equity if I was able to actually force appreciate it and do the work myself and get it reappraised. So probably the only thing, but I really am glad about the way I started and the things I did, because then that next duplex came. And then I was able to play real life Monopoly with that duplex and trade up. And, me and my partner started buying small duplexes and single family homes in South Jersey. So, no regrets on it, but probably I would maybe just put some more like work into the property as opposed to buying a property that was already flipped.
How do you know like how much, like, hey, if I'm going to invest like 100,000 in construction into this deal, like how do you know that you're going to get that 100K back? Are you looking at like the comps and seeing like, okay, well, other ones that are fixed up in the same area are getting this per square foot? Is like that how you would figure it out to see if it makes sense? Or like, how do you know? Cause like, that's my thinking. Like I have a roofing company. Like if I'm going to put a roof on and it's $40,000, is that going to make like if I was doing that to my house, is that going to make the property go up 40,000 or is it going to make it go up 80,000, right? Like what is where do you kind of play that value piece to know how much you're investing is going to actually help it to go up? Like you said, the one you flipped and it would go up 300,000 to 400,000 maybe if you would have put in some money into fixing it.
It's a great question, Quinn, and I think you're in an interesting business because it's so needed. Roofing is so needed. However, when people go to look at properties, the only time they say, hey, does it need a new roof is the only time that they're not looking at it like, oh, it's got a brand new roof. Well, this property's worth X amount more. I think it's a necessity, but not necessarily looked at by the end buyer as something that's like, totally. This property is worth significantly more. So what sells houses is kitchens and bathrooms and just like the cosmetics. So yeah. If you're young and you're just getting into this game, if you can buy a property that is outdated but doesn't need foundation repair, okay, that's probably where you get your biggest bang for your buck in terms of perceived market value of a property. So okay, if the systems are in good shape, like the AC and the roof and those things that are needed but not looked at as like a vanity metric of like, this makes this place perceived worth so much more. And to answer your question, what I would do is I would go look on Zillow or go look on Redfin. Anybody can do this, and go to the same type of property that you're looking at, a 4-bed, 2-bath with within 300 to 400 square feet of what you're looking at with similar amenities, whether it has a driveway or parking or something like that, and say, okay, this is what the top of the market is. It looks the cleanest. It has the nicest finishes, has the nicest upgrades. What is the delta between what the property that I'm looking at is and this? Let's say you have a $200,000 spread. Okay, I need to talk to a contractor that can do this work, and I need to get budgeted, because if the contractor is going to charge you $200,000 to do that work to make the property look like this, that's not necessarily a great deal. I always say, if you're going to hold on to a property for the long term anyway, real estate's going to work out in your favor. But if you need this to return quickly, what I would do is I would find out this property that I'm looking at's $310,000. The top of the market, the ARV after repair value is $450,000. How can I get a contractor to do it for 1/3 to 1/2 of that ARV? And that's a kind of a good metric. It's like, all right, well, if I have $200,000 to play with, can I get a contractor to do this for $50,000 to $100,000? Then you're instantly building in that equity, and that the dollars that you're spending on the contracting work is just going into the equity in your home. And it's not an exact science, right? I'm not a master flipper, but that's like something that people can think about as they start to look at properties.
How have you personally found like good contractors to work with and that stay within budget, that aren't hitting you with change orders all the time?
What I would say, always, just like anything in business, I never go with the cheapest person. Never. And that has been honestly just a saving grace for me, because anytime somebody comes to me and they're like, yep, I can beat that price, I can do this for cheaper, you'll find they don't show up to the job site. Or it's kind of like buying a property, Quinn, and I don't know where you live, we can talk about it, but it's kind of like buying a property in a war zone area and looking on paper and saying, this property is going to cash flow $1,200 a month. I'm going to get $1,000 in each unit for rent. It's going to cash flow so much, until you realize that the tenant base that you're dealing with is not going to pay the rent, or you're going to have a significant problem managing this property. Where I like to invest in C+, B-, B+ areas where the cash flow might be a little bit less, but I know that I can have a solid tenant base that's not going to give me headaches. It's same with the contracting work. If you get 3 bids, typically the middle guy is probably not going to be like retail, where it's like you're going to be paying what you would pay on the infomercial, but it's like, this person, do they communicate well? Have they been referred by multiple people that you know? And do they do fair value work? That's, again, not an exact science, but I never go with the cheapest. And I always ask people that are in my network that have used these people before. Honestly, Quinn, contracting work is probably the hardest person in your team. You mentioned teams of building people. That's probably the hardest person to find and hold on to.
What do you think is like the hardest part about getting started when no one knew your name?
The hardest part about getting started is when you feel like you're isolated and you're doing it alone. And you think that you need to have the spreadsheet tell you all the information, where you're in analysis paralysis, you're stuck. You're like looking at these numbers over and over again. You talk yourself in and out of it. This is a good decision. If I would have pressed go on more projects 7-8 years ago, I'd have significantly more deals done, more net worth, more cash flow. The ones that I said no to are actually the ones that piss me off the most, because I felt like I didn't have mentorship to lean on. I didn't have a community of people who were doing what I wanted to do. I was just sharing my ideas with my friends and family, who some of which didn't understand what I was doing. They're like, I don't get this. Like, why don't you just work your job? Why don't you just stay in the normality of it? So the hardest part was feeling isolated and just not knowing who to turn to. And that's why we created our mentorship program, because we can help people get started and be the person that we didn't have at the beginning. So that would be my advice to anyone. Like, go find the person who's a few steps ahead of you, not 100, but a few steps ahead, and do whatever it takes to get in front of them and be associated with those people, whether that's paying for their program or that's just offering or volunteering your time for free to, acquire the knowledge that they have.
Was there ever a time when you almost wanted to quit, and like what pulled you through?
The past year has actually been the hardest part of my business. And it's interesting because I left my full-time job, my sales job, September of 2024. I can confidently say I've never been a time that I wanted to quit, but now what I've done is my real estate portfolio is growing. Me and my partner are actively trying to buy new deals, but even 7 years in, we're not living off of all this cash flow. Like, it's still minimal cash flow. We're paying back investors. It's a long game. This is a 20-year game in the real estate investing game. But so what I've done is I'm a new agent in the last 6 months. That's going great. And I'm running our mentorship program. So what's happened is I've removed the floor. Where in sales, I always had clients coming in. I was getting paid a base salary. I was at this position where I was comfortable. And what I was trying to do, Quinn, is get rid of the comfort. Because I know that next stage of growth, actually I need to lean into the discomfort. So this year has been probably my hardest, where I've thought, man, am I cut out for this entrepreneurship game? Man, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And every time I turn the dial back to the answer, yes. But I've had moments where I'm like, shit, man, my floor's gone. Like, it's up to me. I got to create this. I got to bring in new clients. I got to close new deals. So I haven't thought about quitting, but I've thought about the security that you lose when you do leave the 9-to-5, and how some people just aren't built for it, and that's okay. So to me, the entrepreneurial like mind games have been the biggest struggle within the past year, but I love it at the same time.
When you say like mind games this year, like was there like what was like that first big failure or moment that made you like question everything?
Yeah. So the first 3 months of the year, Quinn, we were on a trajectory of personal best month, or our business did its best ever in January, followed by our best ever in February, followed by our best ever in March. And I was like, dude, we're on this train ride up, like nothing can stop this train. Yeah. And April was subsequently our worst month ever. Wow. So I took my eyes off of what we were doing right, and I tried to pivot and say, okay, we need to add this to our business. We need to add this acquisition strategy, when in reality, all I needed to do was double down on what we were already doing. So what that taught me is that I broke something in our business by trying to make a pivot and not doubling down on what works. So I had our best month ever, followed by best month, followed by best month, and then our worst month ever. And I thought, man, I did this to our business. Like, I need to fix this. And then even since then, we're working our way back up to those personal record months. So I have made mistake after mistake and learned from people now that I've sought mentorship out of how to fix those mistakes. So I don't know if that totally answered your question, but it was watching the trajectory and then being like, damn, like I broke something. That was probably the scariest moment to realize, all right, I gotta stay focused on what works.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot, like with entrepreneurship, especially when you're setting goals and you're taking a lot of risk, and like, leaving that income to fully pursue something, taking on sometimes debt, other things to build it. And it's like, it becomes, it can become very overwhelming in the first few years. That's why the statistics are like most businesses never make it past the first 5 years, right? Because of all these ups and downs that we experience as entrepreneurs. Was there like a single deal that completely changed your confidence and momentum?
That's a great question. A single deal that changed my confidence and momentum. Yeah, I would say that personally. So in the last 2 years, Ryan and I, my partner Ryan, I keep mentioning him, but we're partners in all of this. We started to partner with people who are a few steps ahead of us, we could fit in a specific skill set. So Ryan and I built our podcast, our social media platform. People started to know, like, and trust us. They said, cool, you guys are doing all these deals yourself. Let's get into bigger deals with people that I met through the podcast. So I have a great partner up in New Hampshire and Vermont, and we've bought an 18 unit and a 10 unit. And those deals have single-handedly changed the trajectory of our business for me, because I learned that I didn't have to deploy my own capital or all of my own capital into deals. Because in the beginning, we were saving up money, deploying it, saving up money, deploying it. And then as people started to say, hey, I'm working this 9-to-5 job. I have some cash on the sidelines. I want to put it to work for me. I know you guys are real estate investors. Can I partner with you? So we brought in passive partners, limited partners. Ryan and I found the deal. We underwrote the deal. We partnered with boots on the ground, somebody who's managing it. And then we were able to bring in people along with our own money to invest, because I didn't have $1 million to put into a specific deal to take down an 18 unit at 30% down of what we needed. So those deals that I was able to parlay our skill sets while I was still working full time and not competing with the guys who were doing this full time, we're joining them, we're collaborating with them. And those pivotal moments for me allowed me to go from 8 units, 9 units, 10 units just on our own to now over 80, because I'm able to say, wow, look at the power of collaborating with people who they have a skill set of underwriting and finding these deals, and we have a skill set of bringing them the money that they need to get it done.
Yeah, finding the right mentors really is the key to, if there's any shortcut to success, it's learning from people who've already done it and already gone through those failures. And that's amazing that you found those people to help you scale and build those relationships. You mentioned, like, you went from a 9-to-5 sales job. What were you doing before?
So I actually worked for my family's business. We did, my uncle and my father and their brother, so the three of them, ran the company for 45 years, and their grandfather started it actually 60 years ago. Signage. So we made signs for education institutions, for hospitals, and I did it for 7 years. I learned a lot about family business, a lot about what I did like and I didn't like, so I was doing that.
Yeah.
And they actually ended up closing the doors to the business and starting something else after all this time. So it was just a unique experience for me to learn about what it's like to feel like you're going to sell something one day and it doesn't happen, and just dealing with the emotions of family. So I did that for 7 years, and I just kind of said, you know what? This is your guys' baby. This is the thing that you built. I love you. I love working with you, but it's not the thing that I'm going to carry on. And I wanted to do something different. So that was a tough decision. I was,
sure.
Making anywhere between $150,000 and $200,000. Like, that's the sweet spot where people get stuck and they think, oh, man, well, I'm good. I'm comfortable. But I knew that I had to take the top off the roof, no pun intended, roofers over there. But like, I had to give myself the ability to really spread my wings, if you will.
That's cool. So you guys were doing, like, when you say commercial signage, like it was like for roads and stuff, or more like on a hospital building, like the big name of the hospital and like huge big commercial signs and things like that?
Yeah, good question. Not road work signage, but we were doing, like, if you ever got to like a college campus and you would see the big signs as you enter, and then we call it campus wayfinding, help you navigate through the campus, help the big signs on skyscrapers. And we did work for, University of Pennsylvania and Villanova and all these big hospital complexes, education institutions, multifamily. So all of that stuff, not necessarily more of the construction road work stuff, but that was a business that my family grew for 40 years. And it's unbelievable, Quinn, because like the amount of technology that has changed over that time frame to even remain in business for that long. As you said, most businesses fail out after 5. So I got to give those guys a lot of credit. They put in work for a long time, but it just wasn't my passion. Like, I did it because I like sales. I like people, I like communicating, but I had no allegiance to signage. I didn't even really care what the signs are made out of. And you kind of needed to know a little bit more than just putting on a smile. So, it was a struggle in the beginning, but I learned a lot.
There's a lot to say about like working with family, right? Because they 40 years in business, they obviously know how to sustain a business and keep it in business, right? But you find that like as the different generations come in, there's like the new way of doing things, but having that opportunity to work with your family and have those 7 years, like how do you see that as like a foundation for what you're doing now?
I don't think I've ever been asked this. This is a great question. What it taught me, Quinn, is that there is no amount of money that I could ever possibly make that would put my family, partnerships, friendships at risk, because I have seen families get ripped apart because of money. And when people are on their deathbed or they're late in life and they lost 20 or 30 years having a great relationship with their brother or sister or son or daughter or father, that is truly what they miss. They don't miss the money. The money comes and goes. So my family did a great job of staying connected. All the family gatherings, no one ever knew if there was anything wrong behind closed doors. No one would ever know. And there were things wrong behind closed doors. So I learned how to navigate relationships, how to stay connected, and how to put what truly mattered ahead of everything else. And it comes down to a great quote that I've heard. It's like, what's more important, the journey or the destination? And I say it's neither, it's the company. Because if you're not doing this with somebody or with people that you enjoy spending your time with, you're doing it all wrong. There's no point to have $1 million, $1 billion, whatever it is, in your bank account if you're doing it alone, if you have no one to share the journey with. So that, honestly, is the biggest lesson that I've learned, is that I'll forego millions. I want to make money. Everyone does. I want to live a great life and have a great legacy, but there won't be money that's put ahead of relationships for me.
What was like the most painful mistake you made early on, and what did it teach you about money?
Probably shiny object syndrome, of looking at something and thinking, oh, this is another way to make money. Maybe I should change what I'm doing, even if I am successful, to try to make more money in a different way of things I don't understand. It's kind of like that saying, I think Alex Hormozy says it. It's like the grass is greener on the other side until you realize that the other side is fertilized with shit. So it's like, you don't know what you don't know about the other side of somebody else's business. And anybody that's pitching to you that this is green and this is great and this is the new way that you're going to create success, if you haven't put in that 3 to 5 years plus, and I always like to use that time frame, if you haven't put that in to see what that business is truly like, you're chasing the wrong thing. Because you can get really, really, really good at something, and then you can create value for other people who are looking to get really, really good at that thing. Or you can just build bridges across the water and never actually finish the bridge all the way across. And that, to me, thinking about shiny object syndrome with, Amazon stores or the new thing that's going to help me get more money, when I just had to block it out of my head that money isn't the important thing. It's about providing massive value and building a skill set that people want to be around me. They want to learn from me, and that I can get good at one thing or maybe two things, but not spread myself too thin. That was probably the biggest mistake or challenge. It's
super relatable that you say that, because I have I like sales guys that come into my business, and I show them the opportunity and how much money they can make, and everything that's possible to be a part of this vision. And month one they kill it, and then month two happens and they made some money and they kind of slow down a little bit, and then month three, and then they're starting to talk about, well, I'm not getting all this now. I think I love what you said about the grass is greener quote. I never heard the Alex Hormozy one before, but that's so true. I always tell people, like, the grass isn't greener. You have this mindset, you're going to go here, and same thing. I'm like, you need to water your own grass. You need to, like, whatever you have, you need to make the most of it, and then that's how you're going to grow, and that's how you're going to reach your goals. A lot of people are like, oh, it's going to be better over there, or I'm gonna stop doing roofing. Let me try solar. So these solar guys look like they're making a lot of money, or hey, this guy's doing real estate. I should just focus full time in real estate. Now I'm gonna try that, and they're never giving something enough time to actually to grow. They're not watering that grass, that plant, right? And you see it all the time, and I see it with people in my team, and it's like I try and set the expectation at the beginning. It's like, a lot of people overestimate what they can do in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. So if you just wait it out, like how you're saying, the 20-year play with real estate, like if you're able to hold on to the rope that long and build it out, you already know it's gonna get there. You see the guys you're working with and partnering with that they've gotten there. But a lot of people just don't have that grit and that patience, and they think it's, hey, let me try and start this. And so I think that's super relatable to the audience, what you said, and thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of people need to hear that, and you guys need to stop going around and looking for the next thing, and you need to work on whatever you're doing and be the best at that. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you love it or you hate it. Like, you're going to feel good some days, you're going to feel bad some days, but it's all about getting up and just keep grinding, keep showing up, and eventually you're going to see the results.
Yeah, Quinn, we're in a Amazon press a button society where I'm going to hit the next crypto coin and it's going to go to the moon. And by the way, people have made a lot of money doing that, and that's okay. If you want to risk it and you want to do that, good. Just don't complain if it doesn't work out. I think that's the biggest problem, is that, you know, the work and the emphasis on what this is going to do to your mental. You are going to be riding highs. You're gonna come down. You're gonna have this not meteoric. You're gonna have this non-linear path to where you want to get to. And the longer that you stick with it, the longer you do it, the more you're going to see the results of putting in that time, energy, and effort that's actually going to get you there. But I think switching paths all the time is a hard thing to do. What I will say is, if you're young, I'm 33, so I would consider myself, I'm getting to be that, like, you know, it's that middle age. Like, I don't want to be switching too many things anymore because I found the thing that I'm good at. But I'll say, if anytime between 18 and 27, just 28, you can try a bunch of stuff. You can reinvent yourself at 45, 100%. So do that. Try a bunch of things, but don't get in the habit of building the bridge halfway and saying, I'm going to go try something else. The money has to be a byproduct of the work you do, not the other way around. You cannot, I've seen this over and over, you cannot chase the money and expect that you're going to be fulfilled in the work that you do. It has to be a byproduct of the energy that you put out into the world, and the good and the value that you try to bring to other people. And if you do that, it's going to be really hard to fail. If you do it the other way around, you're going to find yourself maybe having made a lot of money, but not fulfilled in the work that you do.
I love how you say middle age at 33. It's like, I thought middle age is like 50, bro.
Well, dude, I mean, if you think about like the average life expectancy, it's like what, 75? So middle age is like 38, right? Like, I don't know.
Gosh.
Like, I know. I just heard this on Instagram today. So, you know, hopefully by then we're all robots and we'll merge, but maybe we'll live to 200. But I mean, it's just like, time is the most finite thing that we have. So I try to think about that, and I bring it up on a lot of podcasts. So yeah.
So speaking of the shiny object syndrome, and like we're all doing that. Like last night, I was going through TikTok. I'm not usually on there because I don't have time, but if my wife is like shopping or doing something and I need to kill the time, I'll look at it. And so something popped up about like the wealthiest people in history. So I screenshotted them of like these names, and I put it in ChatGPT, and I was like, who are the wealthiest people in history if like you took it to today's money? And it was like Genghis Khan was like the number one guy that popped up. And I've heard the name before, but I never really like researched it. It's just because he had so much control over the land and people, and like even like Putin is like worth like $5 trillion like in today's money, right? Because of what he controls and stuff. So I was asking chat, like, what would you need to do to become the wealthiest person in history now? And it like started giving me like this whole thing about like you would need to be controlling basically like through AI. They'd say you first need to create like some kind of an AI startup. That would be your first step to get to a $1 billion base. And then you can't think in terms of billions, you got to think in terms of trillions. So then after that, you need to start controlling resources like water, energy, power, start buying up like land. And you hear like Bill Gates buying like water rights and all these things, right? And then you'd have to go from there, and then you'd have to help with the colonization of another planet. Like Musk is trying to get to Mars right now, right? And you have to be involved with that and like put solar farms. Like it went crazy what chat was saying. So I think sometimes, as like, I don't know, my mind is always like, how do I get to that high level of wealth? You're seeing articles on Elon Musk getting this $1 trillion pay package now if he gets to this certain revenue with Tesla. And it's like, my mind is always looking at these guys that are huge, and it's like, what do you have to do to get there? And you can, even like as an entrepreneur, you can easily get distracted into all these different areas. So it's important to just remember, like, keep focusing on what you're doing and continue to grow that. And then that's going to lead to the next thing. Like you hear mentors tell me all the time, like, if you can just get to a $5 million exit, like you have basically complete freedom, and that will lead to the next thing. And just focus on that next step. Stop going out there to the moon. And that all started because of a TikTok video. So if I'm thinking it, everyone's thinking those kind of things.
Yeah, I have a few mentors that I've talked to, and it's funny. I don't know. I would caution anybody that's looking to be a trillionaire. Like I would caution, or 100 billionaire. I would caution the why and the reasoning that you're looking for that. Like I would search a little bit deeper. Great, if you have that goal and you want it, awesome, go do it. But I've talked to a number of people who are highly successful, and they said, people worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they said, the best time in my life in my business is when I was making $30K a month. And the reason why is because there was nothing that added significantly more value to their lives outside. They could do whatever they want. They could go out to eat. They could live wherever they want. They could enjoy their life. They could have a cool car. They could do those things with little to no overhead versus building a $100 million company where they were, they were in charge of all these employees and they had all this pressure, and then they actually netted maybe even less than that. So I think it's interesting where people set your goals. Don't set your goals just based on a number. Set your goals based on how you want your life to live. Vision cast. This is what I want to be doing with my life in 5 years from now or 10 years from now. Not this is the dollar figure that I want to make, because you will inevitably have a false summit and you will look up at a new mountain and you will get lost in that. I've seen it over and over and over again. So to me, it's about how do I create the life that I enjoy without trying to say, hey, there's a certain point where as an entrepreneur, you always want more, but you know that what it will take to do more is maybe not potentially worth the amount of time that it costs you to do that. And I think that's what entrepreneurs don't talk about this thing. And that, to me, it's an exciting topic because I know that I'm at a position where I'm on this trajectory of creating a lot of wealth, but I don't want that to be the end goal and end result, or I'm going to lose all these years. So
see, you say that, but then you see like Elon Musk on these like $600 million yachts. You see Bezos with a yacht with another yacht following it, and like these so like it's probably like that grass thing that you're seeing. Like his wedding, he rented out all of Venice. Like it would be amazing if you can accomplish that. We're all given the same amount of time on earth. Like it would be amazing if you can accomplish that. The stress is going to happen even if you're the stress is happening now. I'm at like a $4 million company right now, and the stress is happening. Yep. I grew up here in Southern California, and I remember going out when I was in my early 20s, and I saw Musk out with Amber Heard at a club, and he had like 12 securities around him, like motorcade out front. And I was like, I want to be that guy one day. You know what I mean? But when you keep growing, yeah, I think there's a book called Money by Tony Robbins, and it's a great book for anyone who hasn't read it. It really breaks down how you can create wealth for yourself by saving money in buckets and managing your money. A lot of people make money, but they spend everything they make. And you could be a doctor making $600,000 a year, and your lifestyle makes you spend that whole thing every month, and you're not retaining. So it shows you that, but it touches on what you just said. Like there's studies where they've done the psychology, and once you reach, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but once you reach a couple $100,000 a year, like, yeah, you're going to be able to afford a bigger house. You're going to be able to afford a plane and all this stuff. But like a lot of people really think they need a lot more money to have that. If you want to fly private, you don't need to be a billionaire. It's like, it doesn't take that. So like there's this Instagram world we live in where you're seeing like this crazy lifestyles, and you don't know what these people are going through. You probably would not want to trade positions with them. I've talked to guys who are worth a couple $100 million, and they're saying like people around them say these are the most stressed and depressed guys you could be with because of what's on them, So I love what your mentor said about his $30K a month is when it was just, I remember those days when I was a kid, and those were the easy days,
Yeah, I just think it's all perspective, right? It's
For sure.
But it helps people like us. And I don't know how old you are. Are you 30-ish? Like
I'm 27.
27. Okay, great. So, dude, you're on your way, man. You're doing awesome things. I think that it's good advice for people that are in our age range to look at and say, okay, how do I actually build this vision that aligns with who I want to be and what I want to be doing? And like, I value the time on the beach with my family, and I value the time with my fiance. I value this time that you do not get back. And so I put the time as the most finite resource as the most important thing to me outside of becoming worth $100 million. It's awesome. It's great. It's accomplishment, but you're going to die and no one's going to remember after a year. So, that's just the harsh reality. That's just my take on it. So I try to remain humble in that way,
One last thing I want to say before we circle back is like, I also like for me recently, it's been like having faith and like trusting in God that there's a bigger, there's a plan in place. So there is a lot of stress that happens as you grow the business, as you grow the team, more money, more problems, 100%. And so I think that stress can eat you alive and be overwhelming. Like one minute you may be worried you won't be able to make payroll, and now all these people are relying on you, and you're like, this customer is behind on payment. So many things can happen. But I think for me, it's been like what's worked for me is just kind of like building that relationship with God, trusting that He has a plan, and it's already, if worst case scenario, there's a plan in place for that. And so kind of taking that off your shoulders and believing in that, and also getting more involved with my church and my community and all that has helped me a lot through that. Whether, I'm not saying if religion isn't your thing to do that, but if it's like, if you can find kind of to trust something more than just you and realize like there is something bigger out there that's gotten to where you are, and everything kind of worked out. All those things you were stressed at in the past, they worked out the way they were supposed to, and it made you where you are today. I think that helps a lot with that overwhelming sense of doom that like everything's gonna be bad, and just to try and think positive thoughts, look at the possibilities instead of, focusing on the negativity on what all the bad things that could happen. It's much better to use your brain for the positive.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, there's another quote out there that says, like, I think it was Zuckerberg who said it. It's that pessimists get to be right and optimists get to be successful. So,
I love that.
Which do you want? And I'm a glass half full person, because it's easier to deal with a problem when it arises than consume your brain with the what ifs about if a problem will actually happen. Now, that's anxiety. That's what anxiety actually is, the uncontrolled of your future. But I think that I love I'm becoming a lot more spiritual. Wouldn't consider myself religious, but like even if I just lie in my backyard and look at the stars, I think, oh my God, like how insignificant, which makes everything significant, which means why not go for it? Why not put everything on the line? Because you're just a number. So I love relating it to the fact that it's bigger than yourself, and whatever religion that you want to look at.
Especially when you travel to parts of the world and you see like the opportunity we have here, that like changes everything. For just circling back to like team building, like when did you realize that you couldn't do this alone?
That's a great question. I would say about a year in, I realized I could do all of this on my own, but it would take 10 times longer. That was my thought process. The speed to the execution was, how do I put people in the right position to help me and for me to help them achieve their dreams? So my first partnership was with my partner, Ryan. We're 50-50 on everything. He's like a brother to me. We started to build things together. And then honestly, we've been able to run an operation where we have a lot of part-time employees. We have appointment setters. We have people that are doing calls for us. We have people that are managing our Instagram and managing our, we manage our Instagram, but managing our podcast. So like they're all part-time employees, and that has helped me focus on what am I good at. I love talking about the brand. I love talking about building a business. I love directly hand-holding people to get their first deal, and that's what we do. We teach people how to get their first rental property in 3 to 6 months, because I know how much it changed my life. So I need to focus on what I'm good at, the coaching, the mentoring, and the upfront. And I knew that I could try to edit the podcast, and I could try to, make all the calls and set the appointments, but I'm not doing a leverage skill set. So I found out pretty quickly when my days are filling up with things that I'm like, I'm not sure if this is like the best use of my time. For example, turning our properties from self-managing to a property manager. Yeah, I'm going to lose some cash. Yes, but should I be the one trying to connect the contractor with the tenant and having to go back and forth via text message that's a $15, $20 an hour task? Or should I be focused on building my brand and buying more properties? That was the biggest thing. So to anybody out there that thinks they can do this alone, you absolutely can. But do you want to do it in 10 years, or do you want to do it in a year and a half? That's the biggest question you should be asking yourself.
What was the first role you hired for?
The first role we hired for actually was that podcast producer. So we started our podcast when we had 2 units. So anybody that's afraid to put their message out there, just listen to this idiot over here that started talking about real estate before he had more than 2 units. I just wanted to share my story. Hopefully people would organically follow along, because I was listening to Bigger Pockets, people that had 1,000 units, started in 1996. I can't relate to that, Quinn. I don't know what they're talking about. I want to listen to people that are following along in my journey, who are a couple steps ahead or right where I'm at. And the biggest thing that I knew I could do is hire a podcast producer. Hey, can you edit this podcast? Can you give us a sense of direction? That was the first hire that we actually made, because we were able to manage our portfolio to about 8 to 10 units without much outside help. We're feeling like we want to capture all these dollars. And then the next one was property management. And then the next one was hiring a team to do outbound, like setting and appointment setting for us. So that was the order.
And then to look at the other side of it, like how did you know the first time to fire someone that wasn't working out?
That's a great question.
Or how do you know the right time to fire someone that's not working out?
So Originally, our business, this was the media and the podcast and the social media, was a three-headed beast. It was me and Ryan and another good friend of ours. And he was like, this was in the beginning where I was like, hey, I want to start a podcast. He knew a lot about marketing. I was like, do you want to produce it for us? And we did. I don't know if it was a mistake, but we went 33% ownership of this company. And it got us off the ground. But then I started to realize that Ryan and I were like really deep in this. Like, this is what we want to do. I'm never stopping. I'm going to do this podcast forever. And our producer was like, yeah, it's a side gig for me. Like, I'm not really sure. So it wasn't necessarily firing as much as we had to split up that partnership. We had to buy him out because he said, guys, this is just not my thing anymore. Like, I did it for 2 years. We got this brand off the ground. And the hardest part was deciphering a number that we were going to pay him over a period of time to buy him out. And we actually just finished that process within the last 6 months. So it was a gut feel, to answer your question, Quinn, to know that, hey, I don't think this person's he's not acting like an owner. He's acting like we should have just paid him as a producer and an editor. And then that's when we got to just paying somebody as a producer and an editor, because he wasn't like ownership level thinking. So we had to exit there. And honestly, to know was just how much work are we putting in? Does it feel like you want to do this? And then he eventually told us, he's like, I think you guys should consider buying me out. And we're just like, okay, that's the route we're going to go.
Yeah, it's that. I think you hear that a lot with like when it's like a big group of partners, like defining the roles, right? And then like if not, people can end up pulling the weight, right? And it doesn't make sense in the long run. But for you guys, it sounds like it was good because it got you guys started and got
no
you
regrets whatsoever.
Yeah,
like 100%. Yeah. Like in fact, because he was such a good friend of mine, Quinn, I paid him probably 50% or 100%, like double what I thought it was worth. Yeah. What we determined that it was worth as a buyout, so that we could walk away and be friends. And that's what I'm saying about putting the relationship over the dollars. We paid him so much more in this buyout than we should have, but I have no regrets about that at all. He's a great friend of mine, and I appreciate him getting our brand off the ground. So that to me was more important than saving a couple extra dollars and trying to burn a bridge of a relationship that I had for 10 years prior.
So just to kind of touch on the scaling, I know this last year you've made a lot of changes and you built this up. You've had the podcast, you said, for about 5 years, right? What was the leap from being a hustling agent to actually running a scalable real estate business?
So I did it a little bit backwards, Quinn. So I built our real estate portfolio prior to being an agent. The agent thing is the last 6 months, because I'm trying to add this other adjacent arm to our business. And people are like, hey, you're in the investing world. Can you help me buy my dream home or my starter home? And that's been awesome. Like, that's really starting to grow. I can bring a lot of investment value to that. So I think the thing that got us from that step one of buying real estate to being able to scale this a little bit bigger was, believe it or not, focusing on content and putting our message out there every single day. We have something still to post on Instagram and our podcast. The podcast is twice a week. Instagram, every single day for the past 6 years, we've put out content. Now, what has that done? That's opened up people's eyes to the work that we're actually doing, the authenticity of who we are and who we want to become, and continuously doing it over and over, even when we don't feel like it, because that is the virtual resume of 2025. That is the business card of 2025. That is how people are acquiring assets. That's how they're getting partners. That's how they're buying and consuming in today's world. So the thing that shifted it was making the commitment of saying, we're going to put out content every day. We're just going to be authentic. We're going to share our story. And that's grown our following to 40, 50,000 followers. We have a podcast following, and that's taken us to the next level for sure.
So I think this is huge because you've been posting every day for how many years?
5.5 years every day.
So that's not an easy thing to do. So I wanna dive into that a little bit because I have a few questions, selfish questions for myself and my brand. Do you believe in like posting softwares? Like, do you think that hurts the algorithm at all, or do you think if you have that getting the content out there through like a posting software, that's a good thing for an entrepreneur trying to build a personal brand?
It's a great question. I go back and forth with this. I would say that the more original and real and raw, I say raw because I don't think your things should be over edited. The more you have a personal touch on your brand, the better. So I would say likely stay away from those things, because if you're getting content out just to get content out, what has come back in Instagram, at first it was like photos, then it got to social media, where now it's interest media. What am I interested in? That's what I'm being shown. What am I interested in? And what people are interested in is people, not brands. So being the face of your brand and putting out something that you have your personal touch on, and it's maybe a little bit raw, a little bit unfiltered, that's what the people want to see. So whenever somebody has a brand on Instagram or TikTok and their logo is their profile picture, I always say nobody gives a shit about your logo. They want to connect with you and your face. So put your face out there. So that doesn't exactly answer your question, but it kind of points me in the direction to say, I would have as much personal touch as you can on your social content, because that's what people want to see. They want to buy Quinn. They don't want to buy words on a screen. They want to buy who you are and who you show yourself and who you show up as the authentic you. So that's my take.
If the content is authentic, but it's kind of like planned out, like even Rich like talks about in his group, like he has like a content day, he'll get all his content. What I'm talking about is like, does the software hurt like the algorithm pushing it out? Like if I like we post right now on I have like the personal and then I have the business channel, right? So that goes out on like 5 different platforms, like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, whatever, right? So I would literally need to hire somebody to sit there and be uploading on each one, right? Or we can like upload it through the like later.com and then it will push it out. But then I think it affects the quality and things. So I'm just curious because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there thinking to build their personal brand. And like, I wanted to know like what works for you guys. Do you guys like, obviously it's authentic. You have a plan of your content calendar and all that, but is there anything wrong with using a platform to push it out?
If you're saying algorithm wise or like that, I do not believe that will be effective. Good content will get views. Good content will get you the reach and the potential prospects and clients that you're looking for 100%. So I think if as a leverage to your time, do that. Don't overthink that. I think that's great. The only thing I will say is that Instagram acts different than TikTok, acts different than X, acts different than LinkedIn on what people are looking for. So I personally, me and Ryan post every day. I have odd days, he has even days, you name it. Like we still do it because I want the personal touch on my content, but I may be making a mistake in that. I may be leveraging my time in not the right way. So I wouldn't stop that. I think that you can do exactly what you're doing. It's not going to affect the quality of your content. So hopefully that's more direct answer.
Thank you. So what is the single biggest lever that multiplied your income the fastest?
The single biggest lever that multiplied my income, okay, this would be creating the right types of partnerships. So as I mentioned, doing this all on your own and buying the duplex and buying the triplex and buying the single family homes. Everyone should start out doing that to learn what they learn. But the thing that upped our net worth and upped our income like that was finding the people who were doing it at a proficient level and attaching ourselves to them with the value that we could provide them. I would have had no business, me and Ryan, buying an 18 unit or a 43 unit or a 10 unit project had I not connected with the right people to leverage our skill sets and grow the partnership and raise capital to get into bigger deals. Because, Quinn, think about this. The 3 or 5% appreciation that you're going to get on a $250,000 property is the same percentage appreciation that you're going to get on a $4 million property. Same percentage, similar amount of work that goes into actually getting that done. And I couldn't afford to go do that myself. So the highest leverage task that I could do was create partnerships with the right people. And that takes due diligence, that takes meeting in person, that takes aligning of values and all of that.
Have you guys been able to negotiate like seller financing deals?
Yeah, we've done a few seller financing deals, but our model actually is more so the syndication route with these larger deals. So for example, me and Ryan are general partners with one other general partner operator. So the 3 of us are general partners. We run the whole deal. Everything, marketing, we meet every week, we raise the capital, we manage the construction, we manage the property manager, all of that. And we take 30 to 40% of the general partnership stake, 60 to 70% is limited partner stake. And we raise capital from passive investors who want to invest, but they don't want to do anything with the deal except, put up their capital to it. So the way we're finding those deals are typically off-market deals from lenders that we have relationships with. Some of them have been just sitting on the market in front of our face, and just implementing a different strategy. Instead of doing long-term rentals, we're doing mid-term rentals and renting to traveling nurses. So we've done some seller finance deals, but honestly, they've been brought to us for the most part off market, and we've been able to negotiate with banks to get the great rates, and then to bring in the rest of the capital with our limited partners.
So how does that work? You basically, you guys have like when you say like a third partner that operates, so he basically manages the project after it's put together?
Yeah, so Ryan and I live in the Philadelphia area, as I mentioned, and the properties that I own, the ones that we started out with are in the Philadelphia area and New Jersey. We've sold some of those, but the partnerships that we have on some of these larger projects are actually in Vermont and New Hampshire. And then I have a short-term rental in Tampa, Florida that it's just personal that I go down and I use and I rent it out. But the larger projects that I'm talking about, exactly, our partner lives in Vermont. So he's boots on the ground and he's managing the day-to-day with the contracting. He's managing the property manager and he does all the walkthroughs and the tenants and everything. But he came to us saying, guys, I have this property here. Let's underwrite this thing together. Let's look at this from a different lens. What do you guys think is the right strategy here? And we'll bring you in as the investor relations arm, because I know you know people who want to get double-digit returns backed by real estate. So people put in $50,000. They get cash flow quarterly from these projects. And then in that 3 to 5 year time frame, we're doubling 2.1, 2.2, 2.4xing their money, and then they can roll it into the next project. So we're managing it from a distance, where he's actually walking these properties and showing it to tenants. So that's the partnership relationship there.
Those returns sound pretty amazing. So as far as like me just trying to understand this as a novice, right? So you'd come in and lender will call you and say, hey, I got this great deal. Then you're going to go ahead and put together probably like a new LLC or some general partnership. And then you're gonna, I'm sure you have like a list of investors at this point and guys that are like, if you find me a good deal, I want in on it, right? And then you hit those guys up. You probably find other investors somehow. I'm sure people reach out to you through the podcast and other ways. And then from there, the deal gets structured, put together. You put the deal together, so you get your percentage, you and your partners, and then the investors get like on a quarterly basis checks that come out, and basically you guys let them be hands off. They're getting passive income from it, and it's like better than the stock market with the returns, right? So you're like, hey, come into this deal. It's real estate. It's safer. Here's all this stuff. And is that in a nutshell how it's laid out, or did I miss something?
No, that is it. That's the high level. Now, there's nuance to it where it's like, for example, just based on SEC regulations, there's something called a 506B, which is you can market it to friends and family, people in your network. We've done 506B. 506C is you're allowed to email blast and broadcast it, and they have to be accredited investors. And an accredited investor is somebody with them and a spouse who earn over $300,000 a year, have $1 million net worth. So you can market that where I can't email blast to 1 million people the 506B. Those are the people that are friends and family in our inner circle community that I've known for a while, people that want to invest that don't want to be like hands-on with it. But the structure that you named is exactly right. That's exactly what we do. We just make sure we pay back our limited partner investors and this is why Ryan and I got started doing our own deals first, because I would much rather lose my own money than lose investor capital. That's more important. That's our reputation on the line. So like you said, it's that preferred return that they get on a quarterly basis, and then they get bigger numbers on the exit or the refinance once the property is, either like refied or sold.
I don't know if you've seen our episode we did with Bethany LaFlamme. She's an SEC attorney. She's actually in our group, and I really picked her brain on all of the different parts. She gave a cool analogy. I was like, if you have this, the 501B, 501C, right? And then you put them in a boxing ring, like who would win and what is the difference? So she gave some really cool analogies in that podcast, which was pretty insightful. I haven't seen that,
but to have somebody like her break it down for you, that's major key. Have someone like that in your corner, because that's something that you don't want to mess up. You want to play by the rules.
For sure.
So yeah, that's huge.
Okay, cool. So let's go into like AI. How are you using ChatGPT and AI in your business today?
So Ryan, my partner, is he has adopted AI much better than I have. But what we do,
oh, really?
Yeah, he uses it. So where we're using it is in our email sequences. We're using it on our website. We're using it to direct traffic. I guess ManyChat is a way that we're using some form of AI to get people lead magnets, people that come in that want free stuff. We give them free stuff that's super valuable. And then at that point, if we determine that they're interested in like working with us, so AI is used there. But the biggest thing is like, I would say email copy, writing the descriptions and writing the titles to our episodes to make sure that they're they're pulling people in to what they really want to hear. I have not dove in, Quinn, on like implementing AI in like our sales. Besides our process, AI has helped me write the process, but I've seen out there are AI bots that like do sales calls for people. And I'm curious, have you touched anything in that in your world? Because I was seeing it and I was hearing these things and I'm like, this sounds awesome, but I am such a personal touch person. So I want to implement it in the right way where it doesn't feel like it's clunky, and I don't know if we're there yet. So it's my thought.
Yeah, I mean, we tried. We use like different forms of AI. We actually did a phone answering AI like
Yeah, that's
after
what I was
hours.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, where they basically like, hi, it's Master Roofing, and thank you for calling us after hours. I'm a virtual assistant. What can I get you information on? And I mean, a lot of the customers would call us after and say like, your phone system sucks, your AI sucks. So we ended up
That's what I'm afraid
saying,
of.
yeah. So look, it's cost effective and it gives you that recording. We were having a lot of issues with it. It was a buddy's friend's startup, and so he wasn't charging us a ton of money to launch it and you know, for the per minute kind of thing. And one of my other friends has a business called Get Married Today, and so they it's like a little bit of, it's a completely different business, obviously. And so for them, it's just booking a time and an appointment, and so it's very like, it's good for like that, like setting a calendar thing. Like you can program however you want. For us, it was we were having like a lot of dialogue delay. I just don't think it's there yet. So instead, we said we're gonna just bring in customer service reps 9 hours a day to be in the office Monday through Sunday and answer the phones live. And then if they're after hours, it will just go to a voicemail and they'll get called back like a normal business. And we're probably even gonna use like an off-site answering service for overnight hours because we do emergency roof service.
Got it. Okay.
And so just to capture all the leads that come in, because you know how it is, somebody calls you on Google, you don't answer, they're calling the next person on the list. So it's like speed to lead is like the biggest thing. And then I think that like it has a little ways to go. I think I agree with you in the terms of the personal touch. We use like AI for a ton of things, like you said, rewriting emails, creating SOPs, like operate like processes and systems for people. You know, sheets. Like we had a guy the other day, it was final day, like just final paycheck, like, hey, write up a final paychecks, things for them to sign off on. And it just creates things really easy and quick. So I mean, you should be using that technology for sure. I mean, there's so many uses for it. Even this is a cool one I've done recently, because you can and I learned a lot of this by asking people on the podcast, and so like this one girl who was on here, she was explaining that she creates projects in ChatGPT, and you can basically prompt it to be like, you're the CFO for Master Roofing, you studied at Harvard, you have this experience, give me advice from this lens. So if you have financial questions, you can say, hey, I'm rolling out this new commission plan, take a look at this. Hey, this lawyer. So it gives you like perspective, uploading documents on it and things. So I've utilized that a lot. And then now I just created a prompt where it's like, I had ChatGPT create the prompt where I said, hey, I want you to create a prompt of you own $1 billion roofing company. You're a mentor. You have experience, and you've built teams, and you've scaled them, and you have this whole thing of like this guy who is where I want to be. And it's like, and then now I just like, I'll do like live chat and I'll be like, I'm dealing with this situation. How should I handle it? And it gives me really good practical advice that like is relatable and like, hey, I'm dealing with this issue with the client. You know, we had to file a lien on the property because there's been lack of payment for 6 months. You know, the client's coming back with this and this problem. We've talked to the lawyer. This is what the lawyer said. What should I do? And I talk to it like I'm talking to a mentor, and it gives me really good practical advice where I'm like, that makes sense. So that's been huge for me, like helping me figure out things. Do you have like a favorite AI prompt that you use every week?
I mean, but outside of using chat, like the ChatGPT software, there has been, we've met with like investor club, people who are trying to raise capital, and we've used some software for, if anybody knows Richard Wilson, it's probably, you know, maybe not directly in your audience, but he owns Family Office Club, and they manage like, you know, multi-million dollars, individuals' wealth, and a lot of what they do is raising capital. So they created a custom GPT that Ryan and I use for building that arm of our business out.
Yeah, that's
but
cool.
No, I mean, dude, like I think that's like a focus of ours, is to figure out how I can implement AI like even better into our world. I talk to it all the time. You know, it knows about our brand, which is great, but I probably am not using it the most optimal way, to be honest.
My biggest thing is like getting my team to use it, like cuz I use it, but like I'm like, dude, you could make yourself so much more efficient with things, and you could like look so much better with how you're getting work done if you utilize chat to help. So
Without a doubt.
Do you see AI as a threat or a multiplier for real estate agents?
This is a great question. What I have tried to do is, for my own mental sanity, to not look at anything as a threat, because I think the more that you like consume yourself in the thoughts that something's coming for you or that it's going to be a threat, I think it just hinders your ability to move the ball down the field. So no, I'm not looking at AI as a threat, but what I'm realizing is that the laziness of individuals will dictate whether or not AI is helpful or harmful to you. So if you let AI, if you ask every single question and rely on it without giving it like time and detail about who you are and what you want to accomplish, it's going to replace a lot of jobs. But if you use it to your advantage, until iRobot and we all have to fight them, I don't know when that's happening, but until that, I'm saying I am not looking at it as like a threat. I'm looking at it as like, how can it be a system and a process that helps me elevate the skill set that I have, which is, I believe, to be communication, relationship building, and being belly to belly and helping people feel good and feel comfortable with working with someone they know, like, and trust. I don't think AI replaces that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it does. But I'm not looking at it as like this crutch that's going to bring things down. I think it's going to help, but things are going to change. So what do we do? How are we prepared for that? Nobody knows the answer. If you claim to know the answer, I don't trust you. So yeah.
What's one tool you think every young entrepreneur should master right now?
One tool, or it's like a skill set that they should master, you think? Yeah. I would say the skill set of community building and relationship building, and what it truly means to bring value to another person. So, for example, if you and I get off this call and I have noticed something in our conversation that you said that you might need to help fuel your business, and if I go away in a day or so and I shoot you an email to somebody, or I connect you on a text chain to somebody that I know that could help you in your business, the lasting impact that you're going to leave with is, wow, Cory actually did something useful for me. He did what he said what he was going to do. And that's somebody that I'd want in my corner who's actually looking out for me. So the building of the relationship and the building upon of that relationship is so vital to like the success of an entrepreneur. My first job out of school, on the side, I coach high school basketball. I coach high school basketball for the last 10 years, and it's just a quick story. I started out to chasing the basketball, like trying to coach Division I and trying to like make this a career, until I realized I just loved the game. I just loved the purity of it. I didn't want to tie it to my dollars. So I went to a local private high school coach and I said, hey, I'll coach for free with you because I just want to be around the sport. That person ended up being one of the biggest mentors of mine, and he is actually worth, I don't know, $50 million, because he created the company And One, if you know And One, back in the basketball brand back in he sold it in 1996. So he is now a business confidant for me, somebody that I can call any day of the week, who helps me out, who gives me advice. And I told him that I wanted to work for him, with him, for free. So I blended a couple things there, but do something for free, build relationships with people, and like community build and have people in your corner. I think that's the biggest skill set, because now there's a reciprocating relationship where I'm willing to help people out and they're willing to help me out, and I'm not asking for anything in return, but that's just how life works. So yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's great advice, and you hit the nail on the head with how you explained how to build those relationships. It's like, I look back and I learned this from I guess one of my first mentors, my stepdad, MK, and he taught me that, like, it was actually like a friend's dad. I call him a stepdad. And he owned like a exotic car dealership. And so when I met him when I was like 17, I just got into his office and I'm like, how'd you do it? What did you do? Like, how did you build this? I had all this hunger to build something. And so he started off by telling me, like, he was working in a lighting store, and then he was he was like 18, his girlfriend, he needed to start making some money, and then he went out to all these dealerships on Ventura Boulevard, put on a suit and just said, hey, I want to come work, I want to learn sales and start making some money. And then he grew that to running the Ferrari store, and then eventually opening up his own business with, selling Bugattis, Puganis, like everything, right? And so it was like, he told me like, if you want to get, because I was always like, I want to be a real estate investor. That was my thing when I was like 17, 18. I'm gonna wholesale. I'm gonna get into. I don't need any money. I'm gonna do this. You know, it's so easy, right? And so I got my real estate license when I turned right when I turned 18. I was 17. So the way it started is I put on a suit. I knocked on every single. I went on Google, typed in real estate office near me, took his advice, and walked into each of the offices and said, "Hey, I want to learn. I'm out of school. I want to be in this business. What do I need to do to work here? I'll work for free. I just want to learn." And I luckily had some people in my corner giving me that advice, like, "Hey, don't worry about a job right now where you're gonna go work at the grocery store. You're gonna go work in an office, make $20 an hour. Who cares? Like, go out and like get around people that are millionaires that have built a business and learn from them." And so one lady took me in. She had about 40 agents working for her, and she kind of brought me under her wing. And I learned about title, escrow, the buyers, sellers, agents, how commissions work, a little bit of like how a sales process work. I didn't know anything about sales, but that was a relationship I built because I just showed up and I offered to do something for them. And they saw something in me where they're like, "Hey, I want to help this guy." You hear it all the time. Successful people always help you. It's not like they're the ones that want to turn down. People have this misconception that like, "Oh, I don't want to bother that guy. He's busy. He's this." But if you show that you have a true interest, you're going to remember yourself in that time, because everyone who is successful, most of the time they built it themselves, right? And so it's like, they're going to be like, "Hey, I remember the time I was like that. I want to help this guy." But they're going to expect for you to show up. They're going to expect for you to pull your weight. They're going to expect for you to do everything you can. They're not going to hand it to you because they had to earn it themselves. And so it's like, it's amazing what you said about building relationships, because if I look back, that's something nobody said on the podcast, but if I look back, every step I've gotten to is because of relationship. The reason why I started this podcast is because Micah, Brad's videographer, has helped me with videography, and he went ahead and said, "Hey, come on Brad's podcast." I went on Brad's podcast, and I was nervous as hell. This is like 20 episodes back, and then Brad just came on my podcast recently, and it was like, because I went there and I did this, and then he showed me it's possible, I'm like, I can do this too. And then I created the studio, and then like, it's like everything, like the roofing business, it's connections I made. People showed me how to do it. Like it's all these relationships, and you don't have to have relationships that you were given, or, you can go and forge your own relationships. All it does is going out, meeting people and seeing how you can help them.
Quinn, everyone talks about building relationships, but no one tells you actually how to go do it. And I think that was succinct. That's how you do it, is that you have to be somebody worth having a relationship with. So if somebody is a few steps ahead of you and they see something in you and you consistently show up, that tells them that you're worth them putting their time, energy, and effort in. And there's a grand misconception, which you just touched on, that is successful people will always lend their hand down. Always, if they truly are who they say they are. The people that are talking shit on the internet, and the people that are in your comments, the people that are negative, are almost 100% of the time guaranteed to be steps behind you. And they're projecting their own insecurities. So if you find the people that are real, that are a couple steps ahead of you, they will lend a hand down, but you have to be worth the time, energy, and effort for them to pour their energy and effort into. So you said it perfectly.
Cory, what's the big picture vision for you in the next 10 years?
This is a great question. Another one. Big picture vision. What I want to do is I want to grow my mentorship program. Ryan and I feel like the biggest value that we can bring to people that want to get into real estate investing is, if you have 20 units, you shouldn't come to us. But if you have 0 or 1 or 2 and you want to grow your real estate portfolio to 5 or 10 units, I have an exact blueprint that you can follow. And I will personally handhold you to get there. So the goal is to grow our mentorship program to a $2 million company, which we're on our way there. And then I also want to grow my agent side of the business. So that's starting to pick up in the Philadelphia area to, I don't have an exact number, but I want to do that because what it does is it provides me with a lifestyle that I'm able to travel. I can do this from anywhere. And I can build a team around me on the agent side. So that, and then continue to grow our real estate portfolio and our podcast and have more eyes and ears touch us. And 10 years is an interesting thing, man, because 10 years ago, I wasn't even in this space. So to think about what 10 years in the future brings, it's hard for me to quantify, but I can tell you that is right there, that 1 to 3 year time frame. And then my investments start to grow to a point where I can scale back and put the right people in the position. Maybe I don't have to be the forefront, but I love the branding. I love the podcast. I mean, I love talking to people and helping them achieve their goals. So those basically 3 things, the growing of our mentorship and our community, because I've seen how dozens of people that we've helped get their first or next rental property, the growing of my agent side of the business, because I'm already starting to get people into their dream homes or their starter homes, and that's such a cool feeling. And then, growing the investment side of our business, which is partnering with the partners that we're already in contact with to grow to get that 80 units to over 200 units. So those are the three things.
Do you want to stay in the trenches, or do you eventually want to step back?
The thing that I like doing the most is the podcasting, is the connection, is actually the physical mentoring. So I'll do that because that gives me like true purpose. I think putting our investments on more of hiring someone to manage the investments or overlook them, it would be something great. Hiring more coaches within our community would be awesome. And then maybe building an agent team underneath me. But I like being the head of the brand. So my thing is like, there's people that are like, oh, I want to retire and I want to sit on the beach. I want to be financially free. Like, what you should be striving to do is doing the things that light you up, that you're really excited about, and coming on podcasts and growing our podcast and our brand. That's what makes me really excited. So I'm okay to be in the trenches, if you will, doing that stuff. That stuff is, I could be, dude, anyone could be sitting in a fluorescent cubicle desk right now hating their life. So I just have gratitude, the fact that I'm able to do this every day,
What's the one thing you want people to remember about the way you built your business?
Honestly, nothing. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. I would want them to remember that I genuinely cared about their success. The way I built my business doesn't matter. None of that matters. But the true raw connection and the genuine curiosity that I have for people, and the actual, like, I want to really help you because I remember what it was like to not have the help in the beginning. So it's more about like how they feel about me and Ryan as a person than how they feel about the business. So the business is a byproduct of us being who we are. So business is business, but the relationships with people, I want them to know that I actually care. And there's a lot of people that are marketing on the internet that are 18 years old driving around Lamborghinis and that are just thinking about money. And I just know life is a lot more than that.
If you lost it all tomorrow, what would be your exact roadmap you'd follow to build it back up?
I would go and I would knock on the door probably of a brokerage, like a real estate brokerage, and I would just say, hey, I'll do whatever you need me to do. I'll get my real estate license, and I would go to them and say, whatever you need me to do in the office or to shadow your best person here, I'm going to show up every single day. I'm going to do exactly what you tell me to do, and I'll bring you leads. I'll be the one who brings you the leads, and I would learn from the best person there because the active income of building the agent side of the business would give me enough to, within a 6 to 12 to 18 month time frame, to build up some active income, and then I could get back into the real estate investing game. Everyone says that you can invest in real estate with no money. Here's the thing, Quinn. You can, but the money has to come from somewhere. So you need to be trustworthy enough for people to lend you your money. And then you do need to have reserves when stuff goes wrong, and inevitably contact will be made in this sport. So I wouldn't recommend people that have no money invest in real estate, although you can, and people have done it. So build the active income. I would go work for free and essentially as an agent, you are working for free until you eat what you kill, so to speak. And then, I would build up enough income to go back into the market as an investor.
Cool. Let's run through some quick rapid fire questions here, and then we'll wrap it up. What's the craziest deal you ever closed in real estate?
Craziest deal I ever closed in real estate. Well, I've had a couple crazy stories. I mean, I could tie them in. Our best deal, I'm actually selling it, in the process of selling it right now. We bought an estate sale from a lady who passed away, unfortunately, in the property, and we got it brought to us by a lawyer. We bought it for $135,000. We wrapped $60,000 of renovations into the mortgage in what's called a home style loan. So we didn't have to come out of pocket for those renovations. We put 15% down. That property instantly was worth probably like $260. So we're all in for $200, worth $260, worth about $350 to $400 today. And we're trying to deploy it into another deal. So that's not that crazy, but we did have a property, a duplex, burned down. So the neighbor's property caught on fire. It went over to our property. That property burned down, and we had insurance and all this mess. So it wasn't the crazy on the acquisition, but it was crazy like how it ended up closing out, if you will. And just I would caution anyone, just make sure you have the right insurance, because that's real estate investing. And we did, and it worked out, and it was fine. But those are some two crazy things that come to mind.
How much money can someone realistically make in their first year?
This is a loaded question. I think if you're wholesaling real estate or flipping real estate, I don't see any reason that you can't make $100,000 plus in your first year. You 100% can. How much work are you willing to put in? I don't wholesale and I don't flip. So, but that side of the business, you absolutely can. If you're looking to build generational, long-term, sustainable wealth, that isn't coming necessarily from flipping or wholesaling. That's come from buying and holding rental properties. So the loaded question of that is like, how much can you realistically make off buying rental properties in 1 year? The cash flow doesn't matter, dude. It's just get into properties that do cash flow a couple $100s a month, and then you'll see the sustainability and your wealth multiply and multiply as the years come on. So in your first year, if you want to make the money flipping, wholesaling, be an agent. If you want to build long-term sustainable wealth, go buy rental properties. And I don't even know if I can answer the question on buying rental properties. I mean, sure, you could create a few $1,000s a month in cash flow year one, but that's the wrong game. You're not playing the game the right way.
What's the one thing young entrepreneurs are doing wrong that's keeping them broke?
The same thing that I did wrong is that you need 3 to 5 years to focus on a specific thing to get good. And maybe that's just sales. Like, get good at sales, and then you can take that into the next phase of whatever business that you're going to do. But hone in on one thing and stop changing your mind so much about what's important to you. You need to figure out your why. Why are you doing this in the first place? What's the point of working hard? You can just go make $60,000 a year at a regular job and just live your life and not care about it. And that's fine. If that makes you happy, then go do that. But you have to figure out your why, what's going to drive you, because you're going to have bad days. So the thing that you get wrong, that people get wrong, is not putting their goals and their aspirations at a high enough clip that pushes them, and then also changing their mind about what they're going to do every 6 months. It'll be really tough to build something that way. So stick with something for 3 to 5 years.
If you had to condense your entire success down to one principle, what would it be?
Keeping your promises that you make. I have a tattooed on my body. The promises that you keep to yourself in the dark come to light. And just as an example, if I tell myself, Quinn, that I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week, and I don't go to the gym 5 days a week, then I don't trust myself. And then I let the opinions of others creep in because I do not trust myself enough to know that I love myself. And if I trust myself and I keep the promises that I make to myself, I'm not so concerned about the opinions of other people. You can't hurt me. It doesn't matter what you think because I know that I do the things that I say I'm going to do. So keeping your promises that you make to yourself is the number one thing that I would tell people to do.
What's your biggest financial flex, and why doesn't it actually matter?
Don't have one, dude. I mean, what? The biggest financial flex is that I can get up and do what I want every day. But what I want is to work. So, I mean, I drive a paid-off car. I live in a property that you'd be shocked if you heard what the mortgage is on this property. I don't care. What I care about is my freedom and my time. I want nice things. I shouldn't say that, Quinn. I want nice things. I want the cool car. I bought a Mercedes when I was 23. Thought I was so cool. I wasn't. I wasn't cool. And I want to get back to that. But I drive a paid-off car. I get to do what I want every day. I have cash flow coming in. I want to help people. But I do have written down on this board behind me, house in this area, his and hers Porsches. I'm looking at it for me and my fiance, soon to be wife. But I know that when I get there, it doesn't matter. So the flex is really just, the fact that I get to do something I love every day.
I love that. And congratulations on your engagement, bro. I saw that on Instagram. I was going to bring that up.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know when this podcast is going to air, but that was in May. So thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We should be airing in the next 2 weeks or so.
Awesome.
But how is that balancing the engagement, planning a wedding, and then also building these businesses?
It's been the hardest year of my life, Quinn. I mean,
how do you balance it?
So, I met my fiance at the perfect time. And I think that this is important for people. I don't give relationship advice. I'm not trying to do that. But I will say this is that if you meet somebody while you're building something and that person truly understands you and who you are and who you want to become, and they've bought into that aspect of you and they know what they're getting into, then you building it together makes it so much easier. So she gets it. This year is about building. This year is about stabilizing. This year is about making sure that we can set our financial future up together. And if you're both bought in on that, how much easier does it make life? Whereas if you meet somebody, this is possible. You meet somebody after you've quote unquote made it and you have all this money, and the expectation from that person is like, well, you're just going to pay for my lifestyle. Sick. Like they don't know if you were handed it or if you actually built it. So the balance is just communicating that this is where I see our life going. And like, I know that you're in for the ride with me. Like, I know that we're doing this together. And that's the most important thing of all, is that like ride or die, like rain or shine, like we're doing this together. You know, I'm paying for the wedding. Like, so I have this thing that's coming up that I know I need to put money aside for. I'm trying to grow our business, and it's just, but I live in gratitude knowing that I get to do this. Like it becomes fun if you make it fun. And it's all about choosing the right person. So, you know, again, I'm not going to give anybody relationship advice, but if you're not aligned that way, it's going to be hard for you to go chase your dreams.
Before we close out here, I want to say something on that. First of all, congratulations on your engagement and finding a great partner like that. I think that's amazing, and I wish that for everyone, that they find that person that wants to build with them. Me and my wife are coming up on 1 year of marriage. We got married last October. And so we did like a tiny wedding with our close friends and family. She's from Mexico, so we had to go through like an immigration process and all that stuff. So a lot of her family wasn't able to be there. So our plan is to do like a second big wedding in Mexico. Same thing like you. I'm saving up for the wedding. You know, putting things aside. We're having to put a budget in place and plan for our future. And that's not always comfortable, you know, coming from driving the Mercedes, you know, when you're 23 to, you know, having to make some small sacrifices now so that you can live the way you guys need to live and want to live later, because you see that plan and those steps. And a lot of people, they don't want to do that. They want to keep showing off and living this fake, you know, fake rich lifestyle, and then they're not actually planning for their future, and everything's getting spent. So I commend you for that, bro. I think that everyone knows that you're, you know, you have to go through that phase, but a lot of people aren't willing to do it. So that's awesome that you guys are building that, and I wish you guys the best of luck with everything. Where can people find you, follow your journey, or invest alongside you?
Quinn, this is episode what for you? 20 something?
This is I think you're like 23, episode 23 of Built to Scale. Okay,
keep doing this. You're good at it. You ask great questions, so keep doing it.
Thank you, brother.
It took a couple people to tell me that. We had Brandon Turner and David Green on our show, and when they said to me, I'm not them, so go find the compliments from them. But when they said to me, you know, you're kind of good at this, keep doing it. That was just motivation I needed. So keep doing it. I think you're doing a great job. Where can people find us? So me and my partner run the Wealth Juice podcast. As you'll see, we're episode 330 something. At Wealth Juice Official on Instagram. It's me and Ryan. We post every single day. And if you're looking to grow your real estate portfolio, if you're looking to get started and you need that confidence boost and you need a roadmap of people that actually care and actually want to help you, follow us there. You can inquire about our mentorship program. That's something that we're really focused on. But we also have YouTube, Wealth Juice Official on YouTube. But the best place to get in touch with us would be Instagram. So at Wealth Juice Official on Instagram, and then check out the podcast as well.
This was Cory Jacobson, and that was super powerful. I appreciate you pulling back the curtain, sharing your real journey, the wins, losses, mindset, and strategy. These are the kind of conversation that move people forward, and I know this one's going to stick with our audience. Thank you for tuning in to Built to Scale. If you got value from today's episode, do me a quick favor, subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone building something great. Your support helps the show grow and makes it easier for me to bring on even bigger names and incredible guests like Cory, so thank you. Follow me at Quinn Vincent on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and TikTok for daily behind-the-scenes insights and momentum to fuel your journey. Until next time, keep building. And remember, legacy isn't given, it's built.